First, on behalf of the panel, I'd just like to welcome you all here tonight and thank you for your attendance in what is our second forum. For those that don't remember me or haven't met me, my name's Trent Jacobs. I'm General Manager of Operations, and I'm joined this evening by Richard Wilson, our Managing Director. On my right, Anthony Di Pietro, Chairman, and obviously Head Coach Ange Postecoglou. As you're aware, earlier this year now, we hosted our first forum. I think it was in March from memory. And we've agreed with our members to try and roll this out at least once or twice a year, depending upon the circumstances. And largely what we're trying to achieve is provide you guys with some more club insights, to be as transparent as we possibly can be with your questions, and most importantly, to listen to what you guys are telling us, so we take your feedback and start to try and help shape a better experience overarchingly for you.
Ange, as you make your mark on this club, how are you planning to implement a long-term strategy for our youth to understand the system of football?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Jason. Obviously, part of the journey we're on in terms of the football department is to not only obviously produce a team that's going to win games of football, but also to hopefully instill a culture and a philosophy that'll maintain success over a long period of time. I think the club's seen in its first 7 years the ups and downs of sport and football in particular. If you can be up the top one year and struggling the next, and we kind of want to avoid that for this football club. I think the way it's set up, the facilities, the infrastructure, the way the club's run, the support it has, it should really be in a position where those ebbs and flows are a lot less. And from my point of view, this year is about building a really strong foundation that will give us sustained success over the next few years. You can't guarantee you'll win it every year, but I think we should be in a position to challenge every year. So from my point of view, it's about bringing the right people in first of all, and that's sort of what we've done this year. We've restructured the football department. We've added probably 3 or 4 key full-time staff to beef up the football department. Good people as well. We're obviously changing player personnel and our focus in our recruiting, and beyond that, it's just a continued education, I guess, on my behalf to everyone in the football department about the kind of club we want to be, the way we want to play the game, the culture we want to set, and continually educating everyone within that department that we have. Not just on, we're obviously starting to see a little bit of the style of play we want to develop. We're nowhere near where we want to be, obviously, but I've got a pretty clear sort of philosophy in the way I think I want us to play and the way we go about our football. So that'll build over time, but to do that, the rest of the coaching staff need to be educated in that, and we're doing that at the moment with, obviously we've got Kevin Muscat and Steve Mortone, Darren Davies, our youth team coaches in with us full time. Our conditioning coaches, Peter Klimowski in the senior team, is also along the same philosophy. So we're trying to build a culture within that, and it'll take a little bit of time, I guess, but I think if we come up with a real clear philosophy, and people kind of expect, it's always changing, but the Melbourne Victory team to play a certain way, and that's built around mainly, I think, we want to be a really attacking team, and I think it really works in this country, but particularly I think for our supporters. If they see that there's an attacking intent in the team, I think it'll work better. I enjoy coaching that way anyway, but I think it's a good fit for this football club. As I keep telling people, when I signed for the club, I signed for Melbourne Victory, not Melbourne Draw or Melbourne Almost Win, so that kind of sets the tone for everything we do, and we're going about that, and that's, I think, why we're seeing a little bit of inconsistency in our performances at the moment. We go to a place like Adelaide or Brisbane undermanned, but we're still trying to win the game, and I think when you do that, sometimes what happens is that you pay a price like we did. But that's all part of me trying to really instill a real positive mentality within the group that will always try and win games of football. And it's a process, but as I said, this year and where we are at the moment is we're just laying hopefully some really strong foundations. But there's a lot more work to do. But in the meantime, I've said consistently, I'm really mindful that we're always competitive, and I certainly don't want this year to be just a year where we build. I want us to be successful this year as well, but every decision we make is going to be for the long term.
Are there any plans to schedule more games at AAMI Park in season 2013-14 and reduce the number of games played at Etihad?
Is Fran here, by the way? Thanks for the question, Fran. This was a question raised last year, and I think there's two parts to it that are very important. As a club, all of us recognise that the experience here at AAMI is far more engaging. We're close to the action, even from a football perspective, than compared to Etihad. Where are we at with Etihad? We have a very long-term contractual agreement in place. So we will continue under that agreement to play 5 games a year. What's the background of that? I think it's important that we remind ourselves of the history of our relationship with Etihad. That agreement was in place well before this facility was even thought of. I think we're all jumping for joy when we were able to fit the crowds in. We all remember that remarkable day we had out here against Sydney with 16,000 people, next door at Olympic Park. And we knew that this league was really going to take off, and we had to be able to provide what Etihad provided for us at that time, and that was the ability to have everyone come through and build our membership base. So we were excited about the long-term deal that we did with them. The deal was a fantastic deal for this club, given that we weren't bringing in the revenue streams that the broadcast arrangements put in place for us. Melbourne Stadiums and Etihad really gave us, Melbourne Victory, a sustainable option financially. It was a great deal, and it was a long-term deal. When we then sat down with government to talk about moving into this facility, and obviously government spoke to us about our tenancy and what our options were, we were locked in to a full-time arrangement with Etihad. So I think for us to achieve reducing that arrangement so we could do a deal over here at AAMI was a successful step in itself. So the evolution of those arrangements, I think, is the best that we could get to satisfy the contract at Etihad, the club's financial sustainability. And of course, there's also the aspect where the blockbuster games, some of them don't end up being blockbusters. The FFA fixture, what happens at Etihad, we don't. And then, of course, that all depends as well on the success of our opposition during that year, so whether it does or doesn't turn out to be a blockbuster. But a good example this year was our derby game had 25,000 people walk up on the day. Now, we can't get more than 8,000 walk-ups to AAMI. So we would have had a lot of people being turned away if we had that game here. Now, you may have an opinion on that or not, whether that actually matters. All of us in here are paid-up members. So I'd urge, sometimes we use the word fan. I try and stop myself using the word fan and say members, because it's the members that actually contribute to the club and show their fair income support for the club. But I think in the end, that's the best arrangement that we could get to have the best of both, and we are locked into a long-term arrangement, Fran, with Etihad.
What are the future plans for the club looking at a social club, and will it be something that we do in the future to own a premises? Anthony?
Look, there has to be a business case for everything that we do, and it's got to work. We'd all love a social club. I think our next major investment will be looking at our junior academy. Now, that's going to take some time. Ange has explained to us all before that we've brought our youth team in-house, and that's building the pathway program to really integrate into our senior team. So what follows from that is the junior program. What we are investigating as a club is a case to put together a junior academy. We're not putting ourselves under any pressure for that to happen this year. It's going to be an expensive exercise, but what that'll entail is pitches, fields for training for youth of junior ages leading up to our youth team. All those sorts of facilities that are required at that level. So that would then give us the opportunity to look at a social club. The difficulty around Melbourne, and we're a Melbourne club, is actually finding those facilities, and other codes have certainly got things locked up with councils, and we're experiencing that now. Richard's had meetings with numerous councils around town, and we've got a subcommittee which actually Ange sits on, that its first project is really to find the right location for us to look at rolling that out. So a social club would be something that we see fitting in with where our home of our junior academy is, because there's lots of things that we can do there. We'd have a function area and that type of thing, and really get a feel. We talk about people and culture at a club. That can be an excellent home for that type of thing, and that's a really exciting prospect.
The money that we get from the new TV rights deal, where exactly will that money be allocated inside the club?
Thanks, Dean. I think part of what Anthony just talked about and Ange is about our youth, and it is about our strategic plan and building on the areas of our club that we really want to build on, and it's about reinvesting as well as trying to make a profit. But it is about our youth facilities. If we can find a facility, that's a really key aspect of our strategy to make sure that we are a sustainable winning team. And we couldn't put enough emphasis on that, to be honest. In fact, tonight, I think we've talked about youth, we've talked about kids, we've talked about Melbourne. I think what Ange has brought to the club since he's been here is that whole direction. That's what we've got to be. And that's where our financial underpinning needs to be, within the responsibility of growing the club holistically. As this is a sustainable media rights deal, so it's not as if we're going to get get that money, but the operations of football clubs, it's expensive. These stadiums and facilities are expensive, so you've got that business case to support, but at the same time, the key parts of our strategy is to build our youth and our football club.
Are you looking to change up any personnel, any new additions? Earlier in the year we saw Danny retire and be replaced by a goalkeeper. I just want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, look, we're constantly assessing the squad. In terms of strictly numbers, we've got one spot left in the senior roster, which we can fill. And obviously there's the salary cap implications. We do have some room in there, but not a great deal. The way that the squad currently sits, all our visa spots are taken, so unless there was a change there, any additions would have to be Australian players. So, like I said, I'm constantly looking at the squad. I think come January we'll have a good look at it. We're we made a couple of signings last week in young players, so it's an ongoing process. But the one thing I will say is that we certainly won't be signing anyone in terms of gaining a short-term solution. I just don't believe in it. If we sign somebody, it'll be somebody who we think will help us in the long term, or medium to long term, and somebody who will add value to our football club. So, as I said, it's an ongoing process where we're in that period of time now where there's players who in the final year of their contract can negotiate with other clubs for next year. That includes our players. We've got currently 9 or 10 players who are coming out of contract, plus obviously players in other clubs. And what you find is that when that happens, discussions happen with other football clubs, and there may be players who from our football club who want to leave earlier than the end of the year, which will then allow us more space to bring in someone, and there might be other players from other clubs who want to come to us. But we are restricted, as I said, to Australian players at the moment, and we are restricted by the salary cap. Obviously, we've already got 2 marquee players, so we can't go outside that. And I'm pretty much against any short-term measures. So, that kind of limits our scope to bring in players, too many players over the January period. But as I said, we're constantly looking at it. We signed young Jason Guerrier and Jordan Brown a couple of weeks ago, and if somebody comes across that I think will add value to our football club in a meaningful way rather than just in a short-term sense, then we'll have a look at it.